The wrestling world has been turned completely upside down in the most shocking turn of events that nobody saw coming. Bianca Belair, the so-called EST of WWE, and former women's champion, has been permanently banned from WWE after what witnesses are describing as the most brutal and unprovoked attack in women's wrestling history. And the victim, none other than Naomi, who is reportedly hospitalized with injuries so severe that her wrestling career may be over. This isn't your typical backstage scuffle or worked shoot gone wrong. We're talking about a calculated, vicious assault that has left the entire WWE Universe questioning everything they thought they knew about Bianca Belair. The woman who was supposed to represent the future of women's wrestling, the role model for young girls everywhere, the athlete who preached about hard work and determination, has allegedly shown her true colors in the most disgusting way possible. What happened backstage at last Tuesday's SmackDown taping will go down as one of the darkest moments in WWE history, and when you hear the details of what Bianca allegedly did to Naomi, you're going to be absolutely furious. This wasn't a wrestling move gone wrong or a simple disagreement between competitors. This was a premeditated attack that sources are calling attempted career murder. The most infuriating part: WWE executives tried to cover this up. They tried to sweep this under the rug and protect their golden girl, but the truth always comes out, and what I'm about to reveal will make you question everything about WWE's so-called commitment to wrestler safety and their pathetic attempts to control the narrative when their precious superstars show their true, ugly nature. But here's what's going to make your blood boil even more: this attack wasn't random. Sources close to the situation are revealing that Bianca Belair had been harboring intense jealousy and resentment toward Naomi for months, and this brutal assault was the culmination of a toxic mindset that had been building behind the scenes while she smiled for the cameras and played the perfect company champion. The incident occurred approximately 2 hours before SmackDown was set to go live from the Allstate Arena in Chicago. Naomi was in the women's locker room, preparing for what was supposed to be a routine appearance on the show, when Bianca allegedly entered and immediately began verbally attacking her with language so vile and racist that several witnesses have refused to repeat what they heard. But the verbal assault was just the beginning. According to multiple independent sources who were present in the locker room, Bianca then physically attacked Naomi with a level of violence that shocked even the most hardened wrestling veterans. We're not talking about a simple push or slap. Witnesses describe a sustained, brutal beating that lasted several minutes and only ended when security personnel physically restrained Bianca and dragged her away from Naomi's unconscious body. The weapons used in this attack make the whole situation even more disturbing. Bianca allegedly used her signature braid as a whip, striking Naomi repeatedly across the face and body with such force that it left deep welts and cuts. She then reportedly grabbed a steel chair from the locker room and continued the assault, targeting Naomi's head, back, and legs with strikes that witnesses described as sickening and inhuman. Medical personnel who responded to the scene found Naomi unconscious, bleeding profusely from multiple head wounds, with what appeared to be severe injuries to her ribs, back, and legs. The preliminary medical report, which has been leaked to several wrestling news outlets, describes injuries consistent with extreme physical trauma, and raises serious questions about whether Naomi will ever be able to compete in a wrestling ring again. The most shocking revelation: this wasn't Bianca's first violent outburst. Sources within WWE are now coming forward with stories of previous incidents that were covered up by management, painting a picture of a wrestler whose carefully crafted public image was hiding a pattern of aggressive and potentially dangerous behavior toward her colleagues. One incident, which allegedly occurred during a house show in Tampa 3 months ago, involved Bianca physically threatening a female wrestler who had received more positive crowd reaction during their tag team match. Witnesses describe Bianca cornering the wrestler in a bathroom and making violent threats while brandishing a pair of scissors, warning her to know her place or face consequences. Another incident, from a Monday Night Raw taping in Detroit, reportedly saw Bianca deliberately injuring an opponent during a match by applying submission holds with excessive force and refusing to release them even after her opponent tapped out. WWE medical staff allegedly had to intervene ringside to prevent serious injury, but the incident was edited out of the television broadcast and never reported. These revelations are painting a picture of WWE management that was either completely oblivious to Bianca's true nature or, even worse, actively covering up her violent behavior to protect their investment in her as a top star. Either scenario is absolutely unacceptable and raises serious questions about WWE's commitment to wrestlers' safety and their corporate responsibility. The cover-up attempts began immediately after the attack on Naomi. WWE officials allegedly confiscated all cell phones from anyone who witnessed the incident, threatened witnesses with immediate termination if they spoke to media outlets, and began crafting a false narrative that would minimize Bianca's involvement and blame the incident on a misunderstanding between the two wrestlers. Initial reports that WWE sent to wrestling news websites claimed that Naomi had suffered injuries during a training accident, and that Bianca was taking time away from the company for personal reasons. These lies were quickly exposed when independent sources began leaking the truth about what really happened in that locker room. The hospital where Naomi is being treated has confirmed that her injuries are severe and that she will require multiple surgeries to repair the damage caused by the attack. Doctors are reportedly concerned about potential long-term complications, including the possibility of permanent nerve damage that could end her wrestling career and affect her quality of life outside the ring. The emotional trauma of this attack cannot be understated. Naomi, who has always been known as one of the kindest and most professional wrestlers in the women's division, is reportedly devastated not just by her physical injuries but by the betrayal from someone she considered a friend and colleague. Sources close to Naomi describe her as being in a state of shock, unable to understand why Bianca would attack her so viciously. The racial dynamics of this attack have added another layer of controversy to an already explosive situation. Multiple witnesses have confirmed that Bianca used racial slurs during the verbal portion of her assault on Naomi, language that has no place in any workplace, let alone one that claims to promote diversity and inclusion. WWE's failure to immediately address these allegations has sparked outrage among civil rights organizations and wrestling fans alike. The legal ramifications of this incident are still unfolding, but sources close to Naomi's legal team suggest that criminal charges against Bianca are being considered. The severity of the injuries and the premeditated nature of the attack could potentially result in felony assault charges that would carry significant prison time if Bianca is convicted. WWE's response to this crisis has been nothing short of pathetic. Instead of taking immediate action to address the situation and support the victim, company officials spent the first 48 hours after the incident trying to control media coverage and protect Bianca's reputation. It was only after multiple news outlets began reporting the truth that WWE finally announced Bianca's indefinite suspension, and even then, they refused to acknowledge the full scope of what had occurred. The ban that was eventually announced came only after sponsors began threatening to pull their support from WWE programming, and several high-profile wrestlers privately expressed their concerns about continuing to work for a company that would tolerate such behavior. Even then, WWE's official statement was carefully worded to avoid admitting any legal liability or accepting responsibility for allowing this situation to develop. But here's what's really going to make you angry: this attack may have been preventable. Sources within WWE are revealing that there had been multiple warnings about Bianca's behavior, reports from other wrestlers about her aggressive tendencies, and incidents that should have served as red flags for management. Instead of addressing these concerns, WWE chose to ignore them and continued to push Bianca as one of their top stars. The backstory of the relationship between Bianca and Naomi makes this attack even more disturbing. The two wrestlers had worked together on multiple occasions, had been featured in promotional materials together, and had publicly supported each other's careers. To outside observers, they appeared to have a positive professional relationship, which makes the brutal nature of this attack even more shocking. But sources close to both wrestlers are now revealing that there had been tension building between them for months. The problems allegedly began when Naomi received a championship opportunity that Bianca felt she deserved, leading to resentment that festered and grew into the violent rage that exploded in that Chicago locker room. The jealousy factor appears to have been a major component of Bianca's motivation for the attack. Despite her own successful career and championship reigns, sources suggest that she became increasingly bitter about other wrestlers receiving opportunities and recognition. This toxic mindset apparently reached a breaking point when she learned about Naomi's upcoming storyline plans, which she felt were being given to an undeserving wrestler. The impact of this incident on the women's wrestling division cannot be overstated. Female wrestlers throughout WWE and other promotions are reportedly frightened and concerned about their safety, wondering if they could be the next victim of such an unprovoked attack. The sense of trust and camaraderie that is essential for professional wrestling has been shattered by Bianca's actions. WWE's women's locker room is described as being in a state of chaos and fear. Several female wrestlers have reportedly requested private security or asked to be moved to different hotels during travel, afraid that they might be targeted by someone they previously considered a colleague and friend. The psychological impact of this incident extends far beyond just the physical injuries suffered by Naomi. The financial implications for WWE are also significant. The company's stock price dropped immediately after news of the incident began to leak, and several major sponsors have either suspended their relationships with WWE or are demanding guarantees about wrestler conduct before renewing their contracts. The potential legal costs from both criminal proceedings and civil lawsuits could reach into the millions of dollars. International broadcasting partners are also expressing concerns about their association with WWE in light of this incident. Several networks have reportedly requested meetings with WWE executives to discuss the situation and determine whether continued partnership is appropriate given the circumstances surrounding the attack and the company's initial response. The social media reaction to this story has been explosive and overwhelmingly negative toward both Bianca and WWE management. Hashtags calling for justice for Naomi and condemning WWE's handling of the situation have been trending worldwide, with fans, celebrities, and fellow wrestlers expressing their outrage and support for the victim. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this entire situation is what it reveals about the culture within WWE. How does a company that claims to value diversity, inclusion, and wrestler safety allow such a toxic situation to develop? How do warning signs get ignored to the point where a violent assault becomes inevitable? Former WWE wrestlers are coming forward with their own stories of concerning behavior they witnessed from Bianca but were afraid to report due to her protected status within the company. These accounts paint a picture of a workplace where certain stars were allowed to operate under different rules and where complaints about their behavior were dismissed or ignored. The training and preparation that professional wrestlers undergo is supposed to teach them control, discipline, and respect for their opponents. The fact that Bianca allegedly used her wrestling skills and signature moves as weapons in an assault on a colleague represents a fundamental violation of everything that professional wrestling training is supposed to instill. Mental health professionals who work with professional athletes are expressing concern about the psychological factors that may have contributed to this attack. The pressure of maintaining a public image while dealing with personal and professional disappointments can create a volatile situation, but that doesn't excuse or explain the level of violence that was allegedly displayed in this incident. The investigation into this incident is ongoing, with both WWE's internal security team and local law enforcement working to gather evidence and interview witnesses. The challenge facing investigators is the culture of secrecy and loyalty within professional wrestling, which may make some witnesses reluctant to provide complete and honest testimony about what they observed. Video evidence of the attack may exist, as most WWE facilities are equipped with extensive security camera systems. However, sources suggest that WWE officials may be resisting efforts to release this footage, possibly due to concerns about legal liability or the graphic nature of the violence that was captured. The medical experts treating Naomi have described her injuries as being among the most severe they've seen from a non-vehicular assault. The combination of blunt force trauma, lacerations, and potential internal injuries has required a team of specialists to address all of the damage that was inflicted during the attack. Recovery time for Naomi is expected to be extensive, with some medical professionals suggesting that she may never fully recover from certain aspects of her injuries. The potential for long-term complications, including chronic pain, mobility issues, and neurological problems, could affect her for the rest of her life. The impact on Naomi's family has been devastating. Her husband and other family members are reportedly struggling to cope with both the physical injuries and the emotional trauma of this unprovoked attack. The randomness and severity of the violence has left them feeling vulnerable and afraid for Naomi's continued safety. Child psychologists are expressing concern about the impact this incident may have on young fans who looked up to Bianca Belair as a role model. The revelation that someone they admired was capable of such violence could have lasting effects on their trust in public figures and their understanding of right and wrong. WWE's attempts to manage the public relations aspects of this crisis have been universally criticized as inadequate and tone-deaf. The company's initial statements were seen as prioritizing corporate interests over the safety and well-being of their wrestlers, leading to additional backlash from fans and media outlets. The broader wrestling industry is also grappling with the implications of this incident. Other promotions are reviewing their own policies and procedures for handling disputes between wrestlers, and some are implementing additional training and support systems to prevent similar incidents from occurring. The legal precedent that this case may set could have far-reaching implications for how violence between wrestlers is handled in the future. If criminal charges are filed and result in convictions, it could change the way that wrestling companies approach wrestler conduct and discipline. The investigation has revealed additional disturbing details about Bianca's behavior in the weeks leading up to the attack. Sources describe increasingly erratic behavior, verbal outbursts directed at various wrestlers and staff members, and a pattern of intimidation that should have been recognized as warning signs of potential violence. Training staff at WWE's Performance Center are reportedly reviewing their protocols for identifying and addressing behavioral issues among wrestlers in training and development programs. The goal is to catch potentially dangerous behavioral patterns before they can escalate to the level of violence that occurred in this incident. The attack has also raised questions about the adequacy of security measures in WWE facilities. The fact that such a violent assault could occur and continue for several minutes before being stopped suggests that current security protocols may be insufficient to protect wrestlers from attacks by their colleagues. Mental health support services for WWE wrestlers are being expanded in response to this incident. The traumatic impact of witnessing such violence, combined with the fear and uncertainty it has created throughout the roster, has highlighted the need for better psychological support systems within the company. The criminal investigation is expected to take several months to complete, with prosecutors carefully reviewing all available evidence before making decisions about what charges to file. The severity of Naomi's injuries and the apparent premeditated nature of the attack suggest that serious felony charges are likely. Civil litigation is also expected, with Naomi's legal team preparing what could be a massive lawsuit against both Bianca Belair personally and WWE as a company. The potential damages could include medical expenses, lost earnings, pain and suffering, and punitive damages designed to send a message about the consequences of such behavior. The impact on WWE's television programming has been significant, with storylines being hastily rewritten to remove any references to Bianca Belair and explain her absence from programming. The creative disruption caused by this incident will likely have effects on WWE's storytelling for months to come. Merchandise featuring Bianca Belair has been quietly removed from WWE's online store and retail partners, representing a significant financial loss for the company. The products that have already been manufactured will likely need to be destroyed, as continued sales would be seen as profiting from the actions of someone who committed such a violent assault. The international wrestling community has been quick to condemn both the attack and WWE's initial response to it. Wrestling promotions from around the world have issued statements supporting Naomi and calling for accountability in cases of wrestler-on-wrestler violence. As this story continues to develop, one thing is absolutely clear: the wrestling world has been forever changed by Bianca Belair's brutal attack on Naomi. The trust that exists between wrestlers, the safety that should be guaranteed in wrestling facilities, and the image of professional wrestling as a sport built on mutual respect have all been severely damaged by this incident. The full truth about what led to this attack, what could have been done to prevent it, and how WWE will change its policies to ensure it never happens again are questions that demand answers. The wrestling community deserves transparency, accountability, and justice for this heinous act of violence that has shocked and disgusted fans around the world. WWE's response was swift and decisive. Within hours of the attack, company officials issued a statement announcing that Bianca Belair's contract had been immediately terminated and that she was banned for life from all WWE properties and events. This wasn't a suspension or a cooling-off period. This was a permanent, irreversible decision that effectively ended one of the most promising careers in women's wrestling. But here's where the story gets even more disturbing. Sources within WWE are reporting that this attack wasn't completely out of nowhere. There had been warning signs that company officials either ignored or mishandled in the weeks leading up to the assault. Multiple wrestlers had complained about Bianca's increasingly aggressive behavior, her inappropriate comments, and what some described as threatening body language during interactions with other female performers. One particularly disturbing incident occurred 2 weeks before the attack during a live event in Phoenix. According to several eyewitnesses, Bianca deliberately delivered a receipt during a match with a local enhancement talent, hitting her opponent with unnecessary force and continuing to attack even after the referee called for the bell. The incident was covered up by WWE officials who didn't want negative publicity, but it should have been a red flag that Bianca's behavior was escalating dangerously. The wrestling community's reaction to this incident has been swift and overwhelmingly condemnatory. Wrestlers from across the industry, including former WWE superstars, current AEW performers, and independent wrestlers, have taken to social media to express their shock and disgust at Bianca's actions. Many are calling for criminal prosecution and expressing support for Naomi during her recovery. Triple H, who had been one of Bianca's biggest supporters during her rise to the top of WWE's women's division, released a statement calling the attack inexcusable and criminal, and expressing his personal disappointment in someone he had trusted and invested in. The statement was notably emotional, with Triple H admitting that he felt personally responsible for not recognizing the warning signs earlier. Roman Reigns, Naomi's cousin-in-law through her marriage to Jimmy Uso, broke his usual social media silence to post a lengthy statement condemning the attack and promising that justice will be served. The post, which has been shared hundreds of thousands of times, includes a thinly veiled threat that suggests the bloodline may be planning their own form of retribution against Bianca. But perhaps the most shocking revelation to emerge in the aftermath of the attack is the extent to which Bianca had been planning this assault. Police investigators have uncovered evidence that she had been stalking Naomi for weeks, tracking her schedule, learning her routines, and even researching the security layouts of various WWE venues. Text messages recovered from Bianca's phone show her discussing the attack with at least one other person, though WWE has not revealed who that individual might be. The messages, portions of which have been leaked to wrestling news websites, show Bianca expressing her intent to end Naomi's career permanently, and make her pay for stealing what belongs to me. The financial implications of this incident are staggering. Bianca was in the middle of a lucrative 5-year contract with WWE that included significant merchandise royalties, appearance fees, and performance bonuses. Industry insiders estimate that she has forfeited between $8 and $12 million in future earnings by throwing away her career for a moment of violence. But the financial losses extend far beyond just Bianca's contract. WWE is facing potential lawsuits from Naomi, who will undoubtedly seek damages for her injuries, lost income, and emotional trauma. The company is also dealing with sponsors who are questioning their association with a brand that employed someone capable of such violence. Several major corporate partners have already announced they are reviewing their relationship with WWE in light of this incident. The toy company that produces Bianca Belair action figures has halted production and recalled existing inventory from store shelves. A major athletic wear company terminated their endorsement deal with Bianca within hours of the attack becoming public. The impact on WWE's women's division has been devastating. Bianca was positioned as one of the cornerstone performers, someone who was supposed to carry the division for years to come. Her sudden removal has forced WWE to completely restructure their long-term storyline plans and championship picture. But beyond the business implications, this incident has raised serious questions about WWE's culture and whether the company is doing enough to address mental health and behavioral issues among its performers. Several current and former wrestlers have come forward to discuss the intense pressure and competitive environment that exists within WWE, suggesting that incidents like this may be more likely than the company wants to admit. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a sports psychologist who has worked with professional athletes, told wrestling news outlets that the behavior displayed by Bianca shows signs of what she calls competitive psychosis, a condition where the drive to succeed becomes so overwhelming that it leads to violent and irrational behavior. She warned that other wrestlers may be at risk if WWE doesn't take proactive steps to address mental health issues. The legal proceedings are expected to be lengthy and highly publicized. Bianca's attorney has indicated they plan to pursue an insanity defense, arguing that the pressure of professional wrestling and potential steroid use affected her mental state. However, prosecutors are pushing back, pointing to the premeditated nature of the attack as evidence that Bianca knew exactly what she was doing. Naomi's recovery has been slower than initially hoped. While she was released from the hospital after 5 days, doctors have told her that the neck injuries from the strangulation attempt may require surgery and could potentially end her wrestling career. The psychological trauma from the attack has been equally devastating, with Naomi reportedly suffering from nightmares and panic attacks. In a statement released through her attorney, Naomi expressed her shock and hurt at being attacked by someone she considered a friend and colleague. She revealed that she and Bianca had previously worked together to promote women's wrestling and had even discussed collaborating on charity work outside of WWE. The security footage that captured the attack has become a crucial piece of evidence in the criminal case, but it has also raised questions about why arena security took so long to respond. WWE has announced they are reviewing their security protocols and considering hiring additional personnel to prevent similar incidents in the future. Social media has been flooded with reactions from fans, with many expressing their complete shock at seeing someone they viewed as a role model capable of such violence. The hashtag Justice for Naomi has been trending worldwide, while hashtag Bianca Belair has become associated with condemnation and disgust. Several women's wrestling legends have spoken out about the incident, with many expressing concern about how this will affect the perception of female wrestlers and women's wrestling in general. They worry that one person's violent actions could undo years of progress in building respect for women's wrestling as a legitimate athletic competition. The incident has also sparked discussions about the culture within WWE's women's locker room. Some wrestlers have come forward to discuss the intense competition and jealousy that exists behind the scenes, while others have defended the majority of female performers as professional and supportive of each other. International wrestling promotions have taken notice of the incident, with several major companies announcing they have no interest in hiring Bianca Belair regardless of the outcome of her legal case. This effectively makes her unemployable in professional wrestling, ending a career that once seemed destined for the Hall of Fame. The timing of this incident couldn't be worse for WWE, which has been working to rebuild its reputation following various scandals and controversies. The company had positioned its women's division as a positive example of female empowerment and athletic achievement, and this incident threatens to undermine those efforts. WWE stock prices dropped significantly in the days following the attack, as investors worried about the potential long-term impact on the company's brand and reputation. While the stock has partially recovered, financial analysts warn that the full impact may not be known until the legal cases are resolved. The attack has also raised questions about WWE's drug testing and wellness policies. While there's no indication that substance abuse played a role in Bianca's behavior, some critics are calling for more comprehensive mental health screening and support for wrestlers who may be struggling with the pressures of the business. Former WWE wrestlers who knew Bianca personally have expressed shock at her actions, describing her as someone who was always professional and kind during their interactions. This has led to speculation about what might have triggered such a dramatic change in her behavior and personality. The investigation into the attack has expanded beyond just the incident itself. Police are now looking into whether Bianca may have committed other acts of harassment or intimidation against fellow wrestlers that went unreported. Several current and former WWE performers have been interviewed as part of this expanded investigation. Naomi's family, including her husband Jimmy Uso and the entire Anoa'i wrestling dynasty, have rallied around her during her recovery. Roman Reigns has reportedly offered to cover all of her medical expenses and has hired private security to ensure her safety during the legal proceedings. The incident has also sparked a broader conversation about workplace violence and safety in professional wrestling. While wrestling is inherently physical, the attack on Naomi occurred outside the ring and was purely personal violence rather than professional competition. WWE's corporate sponsors are watching the situation closely, with several major brands requiring additional insurance coverage and security guarantees before agreeing to continue their partnerships. This could result in significant additional costs for WWE as they work to maintain their corporate relationships. The women's wrestling community has organized fundraising efforts to support Naomi's recovery and to raise awareness about workplace violence. Several female wrestlers from different promotions have announced they will donate portions of their match purses to help with Naomi's medical expenses. Legal experts predict that Bianca could face significant prison time if convicted, potentially serving 5 to 10 years depending on the severity of the charges and whether she accepts a plea deal. The premeditated nature of the attack and the use of her braid as a weapon could result in additional charges being filed. The attack has also raised questions about WWE's background check and psychological evaluation procedures for new hires. While Bianca had been with the company for years, critics are asking whether more comprehensive mental health screening might have identified warning signs earlier. As this story continues to develop, one thing is absolutely clear: the wrestling world has been forever changed by this shocking act of violence. The trust that exists between performers has been shattered, security protocols are being re-evaluated, and the entire culture of professional wrestling is being questioned. The fans deserve answers about how this was allowed to happen and what WWE is doing to prevent similar incidents in the future. The wrestling community deserves justice for this attack on one of their own. And Naomi deserves our support as she recovers from this traumatic experience and works to rebuild her life and career. This is a story that will be remembered as one of the darkest chapters in wrestling history, a reminder that behind the entertainment and athleticism, real people can be capable of real violence when jealousy, pressure, and mental instability collide in the worst possible way. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.